Okay, so get this right. Today, we're we're diving into human microchipping.
Ooh,
It sounds crazy, right? Like straight out of a sci-fi movie, you know?
yeah.
But a proposed law in Nevada is actually bringing this debate like front and center.
Hmm.
We've got this news report, and let's just say it definitely plays up the what if angle, you know?
Right.
But there are some real questions here that we need to think about.
Absolutely.
So consider this your crash course in microchipping, the facts, the fears, like all of it, what it could mean for us.
Yeah, it really captures the imagination, doesn't it? This whole idea.
Yeah.
And this Nevada bill, Senate Bill 109, is really fueling the fire,
Right.
making forced microchipping a felony. That's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a strong statement for sure.
Yeah.
The report says a concerned citizen brought this to a senator's attention, which makes you wonder, like, what sparked that concern in the first place.
Right.
But before we go too far down that road, let's just, like, back up for a sec. What are we even talking about here?
Exactly. We need to get on the same page. The technology we're talking about is called RFID,
Okay.
radio frequency identifier.
RFID.
You've probably heard of it. It's how those pet microchips work.
Oh.
It's basically a tiny device that gets implanted under your skin,
Hmm.
and it holds a bunch of unique information that can be scanned.
So, like, a super high-tech barcode, but for humans.
Yeah, you can think of it that way.
Wow. The report said these chips are already, like, out there available to buy.
Mhm.
Some companies even sell DIY kits for, like, $100.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if this technology is already available, what are the good and bad things we need to consider?
Okay, so imagine a world where you don't need keys anymore, or a wallet, not even an ID.
Oh, wow.
You could unlock your door, start your car, pay for groceries, all with like a wave of your hand.
It does sound pretty convenient.
Right.
Yeah.
And think about medical records instantly accessible in an emergency.
Yeah.
The potential for like life-saving applications is huge.
Okay, so far, it sounds pretty futuristic, you know?
Mhm.
But what about the other side of it? Those concerns that Nevada citizen might have had, you know?
That's where things get really interesting. Let's start with data.
Okay.
What kind of information would be on these chips, and who has access to it?
Right, that's a good question.
Could it be used to track your location, like 2147? What about security?
Yeah.
Could someone hack the system and steal your identity?
Mhm.
Or even manipulate the chip itself? We're not just talking about your credit card here. It could be your entire digital life.
That's a little scary to think about.
Yeah.
And the report pointed out that 10 states already have laws against forced microchipping.
Yeah, that's right.
Nevada could be number 11.
So clearly lawmakers are already thinking about this.
Yeah, they are.
It makes you wonder, like, why are these laws popping up?
Mm.
Is it just about individual freedom?
Yeah,
Or are there, like, bigger implications for society?
right.
What do you think?
Yeah. What do you think, listener?
Is this something we need to worry about, or are people overreacting?
Something to think about, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, now, the report, it takes a bit of a turn here. It brings in religion.
Okay.
They link microchipping to the Mark of the Beast prophecy from the Book of Revelation. Have you heard of this?
Oh, yeah, it's a well-known passage. Lots of debate about how to interpret it.
Okay.
Basically, it describes a future where people are forced to get a mark to buy or sell anything.
Mm.
And this mark is associated with, like, a figure of evil.
And this report suggests that that microchips could be that mark,
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
like giving some future Antichrist figure control over people's lives.
It's a pretty intense interpretation.
Yeah.
It definitely raises questions about how technology could be used to control people.
Right.
And, you know, for people who hold these beliefs, it's a very real concern.
Of course.
But it's important to remember that interpretations can vary. Not everyone sees it this way.
Yeah, it's just one perspective. But the source goes even further.
Oh.
They argue that this Nevada bill, the one trying to ban forced microchipping,
Right.
is actually a sign of Satan being furious. Like, he's trying to prevent the prophecy from happening.
Wow.
I know, right?
That's a pretty dramatic take.
Yeah, it is.
I think it shows how this technology taps into some very deep fears about control, freedom,
Yeah.
you know, the future in general.
Right, right.
But let's step back for a second and remember that laws are influenced by a lot of things, not just religious interpretations.
Okay, yeah, good point.
What other motivations might be at play here?
That's a good question. So While the religious angle definitely adds another layer to this whole debate,
It does.
we need to be careful about accepting any single interpretation as the only truth.
Absolutely. Whether you believe in that interpretation or not, the fact that this is even a conversation, the fact that microchipping is sparking these kinds of debates, that's pretty telling, don't you think?
Yeah, it is.
It raises important questions about, like, where's the line
Right.
between, technology and freedom, convenience and control?
Big questions. What do you think, listener? Are we headed down a dangerous path?
Or is this just how technology evolves?
We'll dig into those questions more when we come back.
Definitely. So, welcome back. Ready to keep going down this microchipping rabbit hole?
Let's do it.
We've talked about the technology, the potential benefits, the risks,
Right.
even touched on some religious interpretations.
Yeah.
But I think it's time we, zoom out a little
Okay.
and consider the bigger picture. How might this, widespread microchipping change society as a whole?
That's the big question, right? The source talks about this future like everything streamlined, no more keys, wallets, everything just a scan.
Yeah.
I mean, on the one hand, that sounds super convenient, but
Sure.
is it worth the potential downsides?
Yeah, I mean, could we become so reliant on this technology that we lose control over our own data? It's a valid concern. Think about it. A world where your location, your purchases, every interaction, it's all tracked and recorded. People who support this might say, well, this data could improve safety, make things more efficient, even offer, personalized experiences.
Yeah, okay, I see that.
But then critics might see it as an invasion of privacy, constant surveillance, eroding our freedom.
Yeah, it's a debate we're already having with our phones and social media.
Exactly.
But microchipping, it feels like that takes it to a whole new level.
It does.
Is it even possible to opt out in a world where this is everywhere?
Right.
And the source even mentions misuse, hacking, data breaches, even manipulation of the chip itself.
It's scary stuff. I mean, if someone gets unauthorized access to your medical records, financial info, even your location,
Oh, wow.
that's not just an inconvenience. It could really change your life.
Right.
And it shows that we need strong security measures, ethical guidelines, clear law to protect people.
Yeah, we can't just jump into this without thinking about the potential harm.
And think about cybersecurity as it is now. It's constantly evolving, new vulnerabilities all the time.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, apply that to something as integrated as a microchip.
Yeah,
That's a huge responsibility.
it is. So, okay, let's say we do figure out the security side of things. There's still that question of access and equality.
Right.
Could microchipping create a two-tiered society
That's a real possibility.
where, people who opt in, they get certain benefits, services, but people who opt out, whether by choice or maybe they can't afford it,
Yeah.
they're left behind.
It's possible. I mean, we already see this with technology and information access, right?
It's true.
Now, imagine a future where certain jobs, housing, even social events require a microchip. And people who can't or won't participate, they're at a disadvantage. It's like the digital divide, but amplified.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And then there's the whole question of choice, right?
Right.
Right. Should anyone feel pressured, even subtly, to adopt a technology they're not comfortable with?
It's a tough one.
Even if it's marketed as, beneficial or for the greater good.
We see that with social media already. You're not forced to join, but you might feel left out.
Exactly. It's this tricky balance between individual freedom and, societal pressure.
Right.
The source really focuses on forced microchipping, which, rightfully so, is criminalized in many places.
Yeah.
But what about those more subtle forms of pressure?
Everyone's doing it.
Right. That's why it's so important to talk about these things openly and honestly.
Yeah, I agree.
People need to make informed decisions without feeling like they're being pushed or judged.
So it's not even just about the technology itself. It's about our values as a society.
Exactly.
Convenience over privacy, security over freedom of choice.
Those are some big questions that this technology forces us to think about.
It does.
It's a fascinating and complex issue.
It really is.
We don't have all the answers, but I think having these conversations, they're crucial,
I agree.
for shaping a future where technology serves humanity.
Right. Not the other way around. Okay, so back to that Nevada bill for a second. The source frames it as a victory against evil forces, a way to, stop that whole mark of the beast prophecy.
Yeah.
But let's put the religious interpretations aside for a moment.
Okay.
Just from a purely legislative perspective, what could be some of the real reasons behind this bill?
I mean, it's a good question. Lawmakers, they respond to their constituents, right?
Yeah.
So it's possible there were genuine fears about forced microchipping,
Uh-huh.
maybe fueled by like real examples or just imagined scenarios.
Okay.
But even if those fears weren't, based on hard evidence,
Yeah.
they clearly meant something to people, enough to get lawmakers to do something.
So even a hypothetical threat, it can have real-world consequences.
It can. And I think it shows how powerful public perception is.
Yeah.
And the role that lawmakers play in addressing those concerns.
Even if it's just like what ifs.
Exactly. And it suggests that this idea of microchipping, even if it's voluntary,
Right.
it's already making people anxious, creating debate.
Which, maybe that's a good thing.
I think so, though.
It means people are paying attention, asking questions, thinking critically
Absolutely.
about where we're going as a society. We're not just accepting this technology without, considering the consequences.
That's right. But, we have focused a lot on the downsides.
Yeah, it's true.
We should acknowledge that the source does mention some potential benefits.
Right, like increased convenience,
Enhanced security.
even improved medical care.
Right. Are these valid points? Or do the risks outweigh them?
It's complicated.
It is. And I think the answer depends on individual perspectives, priorities.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no denying that microchipping could offer some real advantages, especially in healthcare.
Okay, yeah. Like how?
Well, imagine instant access to medical records in an emergency.
Mm.
Or doctors monitoring your vital signs remotely.
Yeah, I see that.
It could really change healthcare for the better.
Okay, yeah, that's a compelling argument. In certain situations, maybe the benefits do outweigh the risks.
Yeah.
Especially if there are, strong safeguards in place to protect our privacy, prevent misuse. It's like any new technology, right?
It is.
It's a tool. And how we use it determines whether it helps us or hurts us.
Exactly. We don't need to dismiss the good because of the bad.
Right.
We need to weigh the pros and cons. Think about the long-term implications.
Yeah.
Make informed decisions that align with our values.
And that brings us back to the core question.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of future do we want to create with this technology?
Mandatory and everywhere.
Or a choice, carefully regulated and used ethically?
That is the question.
It's a big one.
And while we don't have all the answers,
Right.
we do have the power to shape that future.
We do.
Through our choices, our actions, our voices. Demanding transparency, accountability, advocating for ethical guidelines and safeguards.
That's how we make sure technology serves us, not the other way around.
Exactly.
It's not about being afraid of progress. It's about being aware, engaged, and proactive.
Absolutely. And on that note, we'll be right back to wrap up this deep dive with some final thoughts. And a challenge for all of you listening. Stay tuned.
Okay, so we're back. Last part of our microchipping deep dive.
It's been a journey.
It really has. We've talked about the benefits, the risks, all the ethical stuff,
Right.
even how some people are interpreting this religiously.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in.
It is. But I think that's kind of the point, right? It's not about finding easy answers. It's more about just having these conversations, challenging our assumptions.
Right, and trying to understand this crazy world we live in, especially when it comes to tech that could change, literally change how we live.
Absolutely. And this whole topic, it really shows how important critical thinking is, now more than ever, right?
Yeah, I think so. We're constantly bombarded with information, opinions, all these different interpretations. It's easy to get caught up in it all and not really look at the facts.
Yeah, and even with this source we've been looking at, it plays on those fears, uses really dramatic language, presents one very specific interpretation.
Right, without giving us the whole picture.
Yeah, exactly. So developing those critical thinking skills, that's so important.
Absolutely.
To question the information we're given, look for other viewpoints.
Right, and evaluate the evidence, form our own opinions.
Yeah, it's not always easy, but it's essential.
It is.
Okay, so as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with something to think about.
Okay.
If this technology, if it keeps getting more advanced, more integrated into our lives, healthcare, finances, our daily routines, what choices are we going to face? What ethical questions become even more important?
Like, Are we going to prioritize convenience over our privacy?
Yeah.
Will we demand, like, really strong safeguards and regulations to minimize the risks?
Will we actually have open and honest conversations about our values?
It's important. Like, how should this technology be developed and used?
These are big questions, and we don't have easy answers.
No, but we have to ask them.
We do. And ultimately, the answers, they don't lie in some prophecy, or some predetermined technological path.
Right.
It's in the choices we make, individually and as a society.
It's about being informed, engaged, and proactive. It's about shaping the future we want.
Exactly. The future isn't something that just happens to us.
We create it.
We create it. So keep learning, keep questioning, and keep those conversations going.
Absolutely.